Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Honest Pursuit. I'm your host, Jose. Next to me is my best friend and co-host, LJ.
What's up, guys?
Before we start today, we do have some things to announce. We definitely wanted to let you guys know that obviously this is our podcast and we do these about every 2 weeks or so. But we recently launched a new venture, I guess you can say, from the podcast. It's called The Honest Pursuit Weekly. We have been doing it now for about 5 weeks, and we wanted to just share that with you. That's a place where we continue what we talk about on the podcast, but with weekly challenges to encourage you and empower you in your faith. It's nothing crazy. It's just a email sign up that we will have on the description of this episode. It's free. There's nothing to do. It'll go to your email every Monday, and it's for you to just have something through your week to almost like a small devotional. It takes maybe a minute to read, I think. And it's just encourage you.
Yeah. So if you guys get a chance, just like Jose said, sign up for that. And a quick, small devotional, like he said, and it just gives us a good thought to have as we go throughout our day. So super excited about it. And if you guys have any feedback for us, definitely let us know. We appreciate all feedback coming from you guys. So thank you guys for walking this journey with us.
And yeah, and our hope is that you join us each week, and as we pursue authenticity, deepen our connections, and just grow together in our faith, because that is the purpose of our podcast. Today's episode is actually a really good one. It's called we titled it "The Power of Words in a Man's World." I think that's going to be a good one, and we have some good topics. But before that, I wanted to just take a moment to just talk about the podcast and what it means to us, why we started it, because we've reached some limits that or goals are not limits, but goals that we put out. And it's been really encouraging to see how many people have connected with the podcast, how many people come up to us and are waiting for the next episode. And with that, I do want to apologize because it was completely on me. I went on vacation, and we were supposed to launch an episode during the men's retreat, but I made a decision for the team. I just wanted to enjoy that men's retreat. And with that, if you've never been to a men's retreat, I really highly encourage, because even like the pastor said, I feel like I still have the afterglow of that men's retreat. It was titled Standing in Grace. And going to visit my family after that was a wholesome moment where it was an opportunity for me to just be that light in the world to my family, and to show them the new version of Jose, who God has directed and guided for the last year and a half. The last version of me that they saw was someone crazy, and seeing me probably this time was a little bit different. Just the amount of peace that I had, and the gratitude that I had for my family was a wholesome, honestly. Now, for the podcast, for me, we started this because we've been through situations in our lives that God has really brought us from darkness to light. And, like everything in life, we turn to help, right? We want to get fit. We usually use YouTube and other people's experiences and things to help and guide ours. But I was going through that year, it was hard for me to find something that I can relate to, and that wasn't so biblically complicated, but that was just raw, honest conversations. And the Lord kind of put in my heart, after a year or so, like, hey, maybe this is something that you want to pursue. I was really afraid to start it, honestly, because I didn't want to be just one guy talking to myself, thinking, what I have to say is important. Because it's not about me, it's about what God has done in our lives. And LJ and I connected through a friend, and it just became something that really was God directed. And for me, the podcast has been a place where I get to sit across from a friend and learn from his experiences and his wisdom. And I get to almost have a counseling session with him about the things that we're going through in our lives. And the purpose in that was that you can listen to the podcast, and if it's something that you're dealing with, or if it's something that you've done in the past, you can relate to it, you can connect to it, and you can be that person for someone else in your life or in your workspace or in your friend group, and that we can combine those powers to really just get the light of Jesus into other people's life. That is really what the podcast has meant to me. It's something close to my heart. It's become a godly hobby for me that I get to do with you. And it's been an honor, honestly, to be able to do it with you, Elton.
I appreciate that. The honor has been all mine as well. And like you said, the podcast is kind of the same for me. It's been a place of therapy. Topics and things we've talked about are things that we've had, I guess, in private conversations and in men's groups and other avenues just, among our peers. And it's something that I actually wanted to start a few years ago. And out of the same reasons, out of fear or just making excuses of why not to start it, I didn't. And then when we connected, I feel like that was God putting us together at the right time, at the right moment, and just really had no more excuses. So I'm definitely super blessed that we came in contact with each other and met each other that day. And it's just been awesome since then. And, even as I look for the reason of why I wanted to do a podcast, kind of like you said, it's to encourage other people. A lot of times, especially men, we go through things and, we internalize it. We don't really talk about it. And we just stonewall our emotions and feelings. Yeah. And I feel this is us, being honest, having honest conversations that would encourage other people to do the same and realize that they're not going through things alone. I think now we're at a day and an age where we have a lot more language for some of the things that we are going through. We have a lot more tools in our tool belt to, deal with life, especially in our Christian walk, because the world has a lot of other things out there for us that will try to give us worldly advice. And, we're pursuing, God, and what Jesus wants us to do. So, and being able to talk about it and even getting feedback from some of our friends who listen, that's been awesome. And, I'm just excited to continue to do it and see what the future holds. And my prayer is that it just helps people. I don't care if it's 2 people or if it's 200 people. We're just trying to share our honest thoughts on life and do that in a godly perspective.
Yeah. I also wanted to take at least a moment to thank my wife. I think this is something new for us, right? And for her to step in faith and trust me to start this, and really it's about men, but it's also about our lives. And she has been so supportive with this and being able to encourage me and give me feedback as well. So I'm forever grateful for her trusting us in this. And I know later down we're pushing for an episode with our wives and have a real honest conversation. But I definitely wanted to take a moment to really thank our wives as well, and just say thank you for all the support, or the love, because it has not been easy doing this. We've faced, battles and spiritual warfare really with this podcast. But they've always been by our side, and they've always been encouraging. And not only them, our friends, our mentors, our spiritual mentors as well. They have just been, just abundant in wisdom and in support for sure. So definitely want to take a moment to thank them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The first person I always ask, I know she's the first person listening, is my wife. So I always ask her for feedback afterwards. And she always gives me great feedback. I do think she's biased. Just as my wife when she gives me the feedback, but nonetheless, I do appreciate it. And just the support that she's given and that our wives are giving us. And I am looking forward to that day where we get a episode with them. Yeah,
for sure. So today we always like to start off with a biblical foundation. We definitely want to go and say that we are not pastors. We are not any means pursuing. At least I'm not pursuing anything in that realm, but we want to stay biblically sound in what we do and what we say. And Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has the power of life and death. That was something that I wanted to stick to, because I think when the Bible talks about that, I think you said you're going to say it later on, and I want to steal from your thunder, but the tongue is a very small muscle in our body. but it has the power of thousands, right?
Yep.
And what you do with that can be encouraging, or it can be disruptive to someone's life. So I wanted to just start off, asking you with the question of, why do you think words matter in that context?
Yeah. Like it says in James 3:5-6, says the tongue is small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. It corrupts the whole body. And it's just so true when I think about it. In layman's terms, basically the smallest part of our body makes the biggest impact. We could think about the things that we say to people and how it makes them feel, that it could leave. I think Pastor Rick talked about this past Sunday. It leaves scars forever. Things that people could have said to us 20 years ago could still be affecting us to this day. And I even think about some of the good things and the bad things that were said to me. And there's one thing that specifically speaks, that stands out to me. When I was in college, I remember I was going through one of the buildings, and I was going with some friends, and I was being kind of unruly, and I was talking with my friends, and we were cursing very loud. And I remember one of my teachers came out, who was a Christian. His name was Dr. Weathersby. He's passed away now, but I'll never forget it. And he looked at me and said, "Young man, why are you talking like that?" He said, "You have so much more in you, and God has things for you." And he didn't even know me. And but I just remember him speaking this to me, saying, "God has so much more for you, and you shouldn't be speaking like that, because Jesus wants to use you." Yeah. And to this day, over 20-something years later, that still stands out to me, because this guy took the time to speak life into me, and telling me that my speech was not okay and didn't represent what God wanted me to represent. And I thought about it, the people I was hanging around with at the time, I just really felt comfortable in speaking however we wanted to, no matter where we were. And but that always stuck with me. So now I'm at a part of my life where even when I, get upset or angry, like, his voice is still in my head, and the way he spoke to me, and like, all right, I got to tame my tongue and what I say, and just be wise about what I say. So that little speech that he told me right there, those words that he used, and then claiming in the name of Jesus, it really stuck with me to this day. So I think that made a big impact on me. And then, on the flip side of that, you could have people who speak down on you. And like, I could think about coaches that I've had in the past when I played sports, and they would say one negative thing. We're out there trying our hardest, and they could say one negative thing about me, and it would really make me shut down for a long time. And it's a hard thing to battle when somebody you respect says something negative about you, especially if it's in the heat of the moment, because we personalize it, and we don't think that they're attacking our game, but us as a person, and it really hurts. And so yeah, I think the tongue is a powerful muscle that can destroy people, and we have a lot more examples we'll get into later on in the show as well.
Yeah, I think the confidence and really the damage that can either build confidence or crush someone for their spirit really is important, because I had the same scenario happen to me in high school. As a baseball player, I was one of two Hispanics in the team, and a lot of just racial comments and things that were saying, that you almost start to believe those things, right? And I look back, and it was really the same thing. Like, a coach who was a Hispanic who came to me and said, "Hey, look, like, don't worry about the noise, right? Like, I believe in you. Go out there and do your job." And it got me a front page paper. I was talking to my friends when I went on vacation. The paper read "Hip Hip Jose," right? And I saved them, to go to States. But it was those words that really encouraged my heart. For 3 years, I had just been hearing, my own teammates coming at me, coaches, in the corner saying things. But it was that one coach who came up to me and just a few words, right? Like, "Hey, I believe in you." That is all that was needed for me to really believe in myself. And I turn to that, in our personal lives as well. Sometimes we speak things out loud, and not in a sense of like, "Oh, I'm speaking this into, the realm out there, how people think nowadays, like I'm speaking into action or whatever, the
all
universe,
that.
all
Yeah.
that. No, but I think the enemy uses what we say out loud, right? Because uh, that that is a way that he knows, right? When we say things out loud, it's the way that the things that he can use. He doesn't know our heart. He can't. He's not God. He's not someone who can understand us inside. But when we say things about ourselves, like, "Oh man, I'm dumb," simple things like that, like, "I'm dumb, I'm stupid," right? Like you start to believe that in your mind unconsciously, and it's something that I think I've tried to use to teach my son now. It's like, hey, like, don't ever speak about yourself in a bad way, right? Like, there's always room for improvement, but we shouldn't be speaking that negatively to ourselves, because that does affect us in our mind, in our hearts, and then we start to believe those words. And I think also personally, people that are within your circle sometimes, can be the biggest perpetrators of causing you hurt in your life with their words. I've had friends who are going through experiences in their life, right, where they're good experiences, but someone's words of discouragement starts to double think the entire, situations that they're doing. And it's like, no, what you're doing is good, right? Like sometimes people's heart comes out through their words, and you really get to see the truth of what their intent is through their words. And that to me has been a big lesson. I think this year is it's really the words, because I think before I was someone who you could tell me whatever because of what I went in my childhood, and I would one ear and out the other. But now that I'm in God, and now that I think differently and I have a different heart posture, I do put weight to people's words, right? Because I think when someone's speaking to me, they might be speaking to me trying to help, but when it doesn't, right, and it causes confusion or it causes hurt, it almost makes me think twice about it. Like, wait, what am I doing something, right? And that's, I think, the importance of our words as men is we're put in our homes as fathers and husbands, workplaces as leaders, in the military or wherever you work. And I think the difference that you can make in someone with your words has so much to do in that person's life. And I think we should be careful of what we're saying. And my wife has told me this since like day one. You need to think before you speak, right? Because I am one that sometimes say things, and I've grown, right? I think lately I do think before I speak, and there's maybe sarcasm that I want to say, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that. I should keep it to myself. But it's really important, because we're really commanded to encourage people, right, in our faith. And I go to Matthew 12:36 and 37. And it says, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word that they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. That is huge, right? Like Jesus is telling us, like, hey, the words that come out of your mouth are the things that we will be looking at to judge for. And when you read that, you should take a little bit of wisdom from it and say, hey, maybe I should think before I speak. Yep. And is what I'm saying something that is going to encourage people and it's going to help them, or is this going to tear down? And there are situations, I think, where we in our minds say like, oh, this is to help them, right? Like it's negative, but it's going to help them. And I think sometimes I would say a good 80 or 90% of that time, even if you just don't say that, but say the encouraging thing, that will do more effect on that person's life than what you thought was going to do with the negative words. I think that's my perspective, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll take it a step further. I think, to be honest, I feel like Christians sometimes could be the most judgmental people on earth, right? And like you said, our words can build confidence or crush someone's spirit. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes as Christians, we can be judgmental towards other people, especially people who may not be as strong in their faith as us, or somebody who are new Christians, or people that we're trying to even introduce Jesus to. Sometimes we could, as Christians, be self-righteous. A lot of people who could be zealous in their walk, and they might have been radically saved, and then that leads them to just feeling like everybody can be saved the same way, right? And I think sometimes they might be armed with good intentions, but the execution just isn't right for whoever they're talking to. And that's why I feel like it's very important to build relationships with people. And once you build relationships, you can have conversations with them. But as a Christian, if we feel somebody is not, walking the correct path or should be, what we say to them matters, because they will either judge us as, and I guess really even think about their own life of trying to become Christian. They would judge by what we say to them and how we say it. So I really feel like that we should give grace when we are talking to people, especially if they're going through something. If they're in a sinful lifestyle, we can't just come out and try to, condemn them for everything that they're doing. One, we're not God, and two, we don't know the entirety of their situation, but we should speak truth to them. But we do speak that truth in love, not in a judgmental way. And I think that's really important, just because not only our words, but like our actions, they come after our words, because a lot of times, again, Christians will say something to somebody and then they'll see you an hour later acting a total different way than what your words just said to them. So we want to bring people to the body of Christ, and I think we have to really be careful and choose our words wisely when we're trying to speak the name of Jesus or use his name in some of the things that we say to people. I can just really even think about at work, right? I work with a lot of people who are non-Christians, and the way I speak at work, it has to be in a way that will be pleasing to God, and understanding that, a lot of people I work with, they don't know God. So how do I speak life into them, and how do I act around them that makes them know that, okay, there's more to Jesus than what they already know about. So I guess I say all that to say that I really, really try to let the Spirit lead my talk, no matter where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I know there's times that we slip up, and I can even talk with my kids, right? We're talking about in the parenting class, like how we talk to our kids and what we say, how that could build them up or like tear them down as well. Times we get frustrated with somebody and we want to snap on them, and we don't say things in a loving way, but how is that, building my child up, and am I even showing the love of Christ to my own children? And I think that's extremely important as well, because we are, even though we're parents, we're still disciples to our kids as well. So we're discipling them and trying to make them be better. So we want to not just yell at them a bunch of rules and regulations, but really get a heart change for them. And I believe to change people's heart is how we talk to them and how we act around them, and it has to be true and authentic.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that point, on Tuesday we were doing a Bible study through John 9 about the man who is blind, and now Jesus heals him, right? And then the Pharisees are asking him, like, no, that guy is from whatever. He's not of God. We're from the people from Moses and stuff like that. But Chaps Johnson, he said something that was really, really good, and it stuck with me. Was sometimes as Christians, right, we think that our words are the thing that are going to change people's heart. Only God changes people's hearts, right? Oh. And I think our words should be a tool to encourage that change.
Yeah.
And that stuck to me, because it's like, it's happened to me where people, they mean well, but they're almost trying to be God and changing someone, like, right? Like you have the non-believer at work and you're just trying to, no, you're wrong. Like Jesus, it's like, that's the wrong way to go about it, right? Like encourage those people to follow Jesus, but God is the only person that can change that person's heart. I know, because God's the only person that changed my heart, right? Yeah. I tried to use counselors and other things to change my heart, but it wasn't until I came to Christ and had a true relationship with him that over time he starts to take all that stuff out of my heart, and now he starts to input himself in. And really, I say that because it goes back to the point I said earlier, right? Like out of our hearts comes the true of who we are, and really that's almost like a measure to know, right? Like someone, when they speak, like you can see their heart. And that's how I look at people now. Sometimes I have a lot of coworkers, man, they're just like cussing this and that and using God's name in vain, and they've learned I've said this many times, like at work, they're like, hey, don't say that. Like
Yeah.
they'll even correct other people for me.
Yep.
Like, hey, don't say that around him. Like we want to respect his beliefs. And it's like, it's not about my beliefs. It's like, you want to respect God, first of all, right? Like we don't want to use his name and God dang and that, this and that. But it's in that, right? My small little words of encouragement are like, hey man, like I want to respect God. It wasn't that, hey, you're wrong, like you're a non-believer, you shouldn't say things like that. That are slowly but surely, causing that heart change through God's will, and that to me is really important. I try to do that, especially at home. I think home for me is the most important place, because sometimes we are good with our words at work,
Yep.
at friends, and I was, you know, always a big, doer of this at work. I would recruit people and I would talk to people good and then I come home and I would go in silence, or I would give short answers to my family. And it's like, how can I give people that I don't know, all of me, and then I come home and I wouldn't talk to my family in a good way. So that's something that I use now, where like I want to encourage my wife and I want to encourage my son, and I want to be someone who they can turn to in times when they're going through hard times. And what they're going to receive from me is either a listening ear sometimes, right? Or just an encouraging word, and not trying to fix a problem all the time. Or with our sons, not trying to, you need to do this way, this way, this way, right? Like sometimes they're going to learn through their mistakes. And as parents, that's hard, right? Because you don't want them to have to go through the mistakes, but sometimes that's how they learn. Like basketball. I tell my kid all the time, like, hey, you can't dribble with two hands. I can continue correcting him, but it was through practice that he kind of like, he sees everybody else trying to do it, so he starts to actually do it, and he's learning in that way. So I do believe that, just like you said, words have a power, but also our actions sometimes can be those words without having to be said, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And my wife used to tell me all the time that when it comes to dealing with our kids, and like we're saying, we will have more patience for people that we work with than people who live in our own house. And really, even reflecting on like, man, like how am I making my own kids feel? Like, if I'm not having patience with my own kids and my words are short with them, what am I really teaching them? As they continue to grow, and how are they going to treat people? Yeah. Are they going to treat people the same way that I'm treating them? Would I want them to treat people? And furthermore, I have 4 kids and their siblings. I get frustrated with them when they are mean to each other and are short with each other, but how can I be frustrated with my own kids when I've just been short with them? I'm literally teaching them what to be, and then now I'm frustrated because they're being what I've taught them. I don't want them to be like me. So that has to be a heart change for myself and just us as parents of, if we really want our kids to be a certain way, we have to show them the example of how to be.
Yeah.
And, when we know better, we do better. And yeah, we're going to still make mistakes and we're still going to have our moments, but I think it's really important to have conversations with our kids and really speak life into them, and even apologize to them. Like, hey, I'm sorry, I was short. I was short with you today. And man, those words of apology go a long way with our kids. They will remember that. And when we're able to apologize for our wrongdoing to our kids, it then, starts, changing their own heart. And yeah, we may not see the fruit of it right away, but we have to be patient. We have to be willing to have 10,000 conversations with our kids of, leading them in the right direction, saying the right things, and getting it to stick, and just have hope, through Jesus Christ, that our kids will change and they will have the right heart posture. Because what we don't want is our kids to leave our house when they're 18 and then, live an ungodly life, because I know it happens to so many. It happened to me. Just lived a life of rules and regulations with no real relationship with God, and, how that can affect you when you leave the home. So we want to make a heart change and not just try to correct the behavior, but really change the heart. And I think our words have a big part of that, and we have to be able to have the endurance to continue to have those words with our children and our family and the people close to us over and over, because I know for me, I learned more from the people who spoke kind words or spoke godly words, but then also, they acted those words out. It wasn't just words that just came out of their mouth, but it's like, how was their character to go along with those words?
Yeah, and I mean, how patient has God been with you in your life,
Yeah.
right? Like let's think of that. Like if I mean, God's been patient with me for over 20 something years, right? Like to think that like that should be enough grace for us to understand like we have to be patient as well. And again, sometimes it's not going to come right away, but that doesn't deter us from continuing to do those actions and continue to speak life into other people, because although you may not see it, it's making a change and it's being used for God's will. And I think that's a good transition to go into, like everyday life. I'm someone who's tries to be funny and sarcastic, right? And sometimes those are not the right words to say in situations, right? And although it may be funny, it could also be putting someone down. And that's something that, my wife has helped me through in my life. It's like being funny all the time, sure, but it also causes hurt in other people's lives, sometimes even in our own lives. Because you may be just going along with a joke, right? And it may be about your spouse or your kid or yourself. But then you go home and you're like thinking about that joke because it's like, oh man, it really made me feel down or whatnot. And that's something that, I've learned to just understand that not everyone understands your sarcasm. And we need to be careful of that. Because again, the power of words have a huge weight on them. And not everyone is the same, has the same idea on sarcasm, and some people don't even understand sarcasm. They take it for what it is and they run with it, and I turned to a friend who I've been texting this week, and he had a situation where words was said to him, and there was no truth to those words, but the power of those words still come into his mind and resonate. And he's like, man, I still find myself at times, thinking back to those words, and it's like, don't, because that's the problem with that, right? I think is the enemy uses that. He uses that to discourage what God's doing in our lives. And God, he's no Elon Musk, right? Like he's not creating new methods on how to attack us. He uses the past. He uses what he knows, and he's kind of like a tape recorder where you just rewind and play again, and he uses those same tactics for you to make you stumble. And that's where I think we have to be really careful in our everyday life. And let's talk about, sometimes it can be easy to fall into those traps, and how can we avoid them? How can we go through our everyday life to say like, oh, okay, maybe in these situations I need to be more careful and think before I speak.
Absolutely. So Luke 6:45 says, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of, right? So why that is really important is because, like it says, what's in our heart, that's going to come out of our mouth. And I believe what's in our heart is what we consume, right? So when we look at the music we consume, the TV we consume, the people we're around, and the things that we just let influence us, our words will be dictated by those things. So I just feel like it's extremely important. We should be cautious of what we put into our brain. I've said it so many times that I don't even remember where I heard it from at this point now, but our eyes and ears are the windows to our souls. So everything that comes in, it's going to eventually, change our heart, and it's going to come out. So that's why for me, I love listening. I've said it before. I love listening to worship music. I try to listen to it all day if I can, daily devotions, waking up in the morning, starting with God, right? Spending our alone time with him. And I believe once we do that, the more we put God in our heart, and the more we consume things of the Lord, that our words will start to reflect that, right? And I can tell, when I've spent a little bit too much time, doing worldly things. And not all things are bad. Like, let's say like watching something on Netflix. Every now and then we could binge watch a good Netflix show, but if we start doing too much binge watching and we're starting to substitute, time with God with watching Netflix, or even there'll be times where, we could be somewhere outward with somebody else and they're listening to music that kind of makes us reminisce about the past. Yeah. And now it starts like, oh, I think I want to listen to that again, but I'll try to listen to the clean version of it and try to make an excuse like, I'm not listening to the curse. Yeah, I'm not listening to the curse words. But like you said, the context is still the same. Yeah. So you're letting those things change your heart. And obviously there's no judgment anywhere, but I would say that, if you're consuming a lot of worldly things and you're consuming very little things of God, then that's going to affect your everyday words. And that's why I think it's really important for you to, like we said, I'm just really repeating myself now, just put things of God into your mind. So as your speech does come, you still will make mistakes. You're still gonna, we are human. We still walk in the flesh, but every now and then, but like you're gonna snap. But the more you consume God, the more godly your words will be, and encouraging your words will be to people, because you'll start giving grace to people, and the same way that God has given us grace. And I think about grace and our response to people. A lot of times we get frustrated when we talk about the kids again, right? Do we really give grace to our kids when we talk to them in our response? It could be something as simple as doing homework. There's a joke that says, it talks about how when you're doing math with your kids, like if Johnny has 5 apples, take away 2, how many apples does Johnny has? And your kid doesn't know the answer, and you start yelling, like, if Johnny has 5 apples and he takes away 2, like you start just yelling at your kids because they don't understand what's that problem. You've just destroyed that moment with your child. And not
that was me, dude. That was me to the T, because I love math, right? So like for me, and I know that Eli's good at math, but sometimes because he gets home, he wants to play, right? Like I would lose patience with him in this, and it just happened a few days yesterday or the day before yesterday. And I know he knows how to do it because they teach them at school, right? This is homework. And I had to kind of like say, okay, hold on. In the past, I would have, dude, why are you not understanding, right? But it was just a calm, like, buddy, all right, let's work. I'll, read it. Let's read it together. Let's go. Do you know what this is? How many is he asking you? And from there, like, he just started doing it by himself. And it was a good moment for me to sit back and say, like, okay, this was a win today, right? Like, my words, instead of coming at him, and because initially when I would do that, he would get frustrated and he starts crying. And then it's like, okay, we're not getting anything done now. And he almost started crying. I was like, but we're not, I don't want to do that. Like, let's just read it. Let's understand it. And then he understood it. And then he's literally like, I sat back in the couch and he's doing the homework by himself. And then I'm just double checking to make sure his work is good. But that was me to the T, man. I used to lose my patience all the time. And I still do sometimes. I'm not perfect, right? But like you said, it's so important because that situation, right? I look at it and then it could be something when he's 13 or 14 or 15. And that situation could be the difference between him saying, hey, Dad, I need to talk to you, or saying, I'm not going to talk to my dad because he's going to respond to me in this way, right? And
I think that's actually really important, because I think about my past, and I was scared to admit my mistakes to my parents because I was scared of how they would react. Obviously, I qualify. I love my parents, but I feel like their patience was very short. And so when I would go through certain things in life, I wouldn't want to, open up to them because I was scared of the reaction. Like, are they going to have a loving reaction, or are they just going to chastise me or whatever? So again, instead of talking to my parents, I would either internalize things, stonewall it, or you start going to your friends who are going through the same things. They don't have good advice for us. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I look back and I think anytime I had to say something to my dad, it went through my mom. Like, I don't remember a time where I said, hey, Dad, I need to talk to you. It was always like, wait till Dad's at work, let me talk to Mom, and then Mom will take care of it. Because I was so afraid of, his reaction. And again, I love my dad. We moved from that. And he was learning as well. I always say this. He was learning just like I'm learning. And he just had a lot on his plate as well, right? Like, he's doing so much for his family. So I have no hate or anything towards him at all. And I always feel bad bringing our parents because my parents listen now. And I want him to know that. I want to say that because I want to help other people, but it's not to shame him or anything. It's just to talk about what I lived, right? And it was a situation where a lot of the times the reaction was bad because it was something bad that happened, and then it didn't align with God or what we believed, and it always ended in yelling or you're grounded for 2 weeks, and isolation. So I got really closed off to that, and I don't think I ever talked to anyone really
Yeah.
I think maybe once or twice I would talk to my grandma because she understood and she, she's known me. But now in my later lives, I'm open to him, and I'm able to tell him like things and talk to him about things. And I think it's been a good thing to see the difference, right? I think that's something that only God has done in both of our lives, because before we would butt heads a lot in that situation. And that's why I look at my son now differently, and I say, like, there's certain things that, my parents did with me that I would never do with my son.
Yeah.
Like, one, grounding him in isolation, I would never do that, right?
Yeah.
If I ground him, I remove things away from him, or like things that I know are gonna get his attention. But I never try to just say like, go in a corner, or like, go to your room, although I'll say sometimes like, you're gonna be grounded in your room, but I would never do it because I know what it did to me, and I'm very careful of that. And again, talking to what you said earlier, right, about inputting God into our lives, I look at it like a coffee machine, right? God is that filter that you put the coffee in, and he's the one that filters the good and the bad in your life. And when you don't have enough of God, then you can't filter the good and the bad, right? When you're watching things, listening to things. So you're putting yourself almost in a disadvantage in those ways. And then those things will corrupt your heart. Like, it's not if, it's when it corrupts your heart. And it's something that it's kind of like your weight, right? It's slow, but over time, all you see is going from 200 to 210.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what happened? How did I get here? It's the same way with our hearts. You don't see it daily, but then you'll come to a point where you're like, whoa, I am way off the mark. And don't feel bad if you're in that situation, right? Like, the great thing is that we have grace.
Yeah.
And God has been more than gracious with us, and he will continue to be more gracious with us every single day. But it has to start with you to make a change, right? To say, okay, I do need to limit certain things, or I do need to change the way that I speak to my family, my friends at work. Or you never want to be that guy that, they know you at church, but then they know another person at you at work.
For sure.
Like, don't be that guy, right? Because we are the light in everywhere that we go. And I think that's one of the things that I always pray in my prayer. Is like, hey, do not let me walk into a room first. You walked in and let me follow your footsteps. Because I think when you let God and Jesus guide your life, I think it changes the way that you react to things, like at work or at home. When you say, hey, you've had a hard day at work, take 5 minutes before you walk into your home and pray and say, hey, Lord, I've had a hard day at work, but don't let those things be the thing that direct my steps into my home, right? Direct my steps in my home, and be that light in your home as well. I think those are things that I've applied in my everyday life to help me really be a light and be someone who can speak life into someone rather than the opposite. I can't say it enough, man. I think it's, especially lately, it's been something that the enemy has been using really against me. And it has to do really with the past, like the past of what I used to be gets brought up, or maybe not being good enough. That I know the enemy knows that I've dealt with that as a childhood. So I think now he tries to use that in my faith of like, you're not good enough for God, but by grace alone we're saved, right? Like that is not how God works, right? There's not many, no matter how many pages you read a day, how many prayers you pray a day, how many worship songs you listen to a day, that's not what is going to get you saved. What's going to get you saved is your heart, your actions that you're doing, the things that you're applying in your life, that you're learning about. Because sometimes, we like to use those and use those words that we're reading as a sword, right? And that's where I think it can become a little dangerous. How could you advise someone who maybe has been dealing with that in their lives, right? Like how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage anybody, like, first and foremost, that we're saved by grace. There's nothing that we could do to make God love us more or less, right? We're saved by the grace. Jesus freely gave up his life for us, just so we can have eternal life in him, as long as we believe, right? And if we believe that in our heart and soul, then we are saved. Now, we are still human and we walk this earth, and we will still go through things, and there will still be attacks from the enemy to believe, like you said, it will make us believe that we aren't good enough, right? And sometimes the enemy will use people to talk to us and say things that out of left field sometimes. And I kind of know,
Literally.
and they will come from out of nowhere. But that's why I think it's so important to stay planted in the Lord, daily devotions, reading our Bibles, listening to worship music, just being confident in who the Lord is, then surrounding ourselves with other like-minded individuals, having brotherhoods within Christ, and that way those people can speak life into you and encourage you, because everybody's not going to have the same, they don't have the same good intentions for you. So when those attacks do come from the enemy, it's usually from a source that doesn't really care about you. Every now and then it could be somebody from inside your inner circle, but I always say consider the source. Something that's trying to throw you off and speak negatively about you. Like, where's that source coming from? Is there any truth to that? And take that and go to your spiritual mentors, go to your brothers, and share that with them. Be willing to share your life. That way you can get godly advice, and they could speak into you like, hey man, that is out of bounds. I don't see any truth in that, and here's why I don't see any truth in that. So when you have people around you that you trust and they love you, they will speak life into you, and those words they will use can help build you up. Now, you might still in the back of your mind still feel like, oh man, I can't believe this person said this. Where is this coming from? But I just think, again, that is just the enemy trying to make us stumble. And I know a lot of times when people they get these thoughts in their head and they're losing the war of their mind. Like, well, I'm not good enough anyway, so I might as well, whatever. And then it usually turns to sin. Well, they fall back to their sin of choice. Again, that's why I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. It's really important to have the people around you. Have whether you're in a men's group or you have a small connect group that you're in with other Christians who can speak life into you. Also having mentors, right? And I think one of the reasons it's important to have mentors is because if you are going through something, spiritual battle, you should take that to them, and then they can help guide you through that. So,
you hit it right on the spot. I mean, I don't think I have to add to that. I think what I would want to say when it comes to words in everyday, these are just a few examples that I thought about that we should really be at least aware, right, when the moment comes, that are really important, right? And it's like a text to your spouse, a response to your kids' questions, a comment to a coworker or a brother in Christ. Like those are moments that we shouldn't take lightly, and we should use, the wisdom that God has given us to encourage people, and I would say, ask yourself, like, what are the words communicating about what's in my heart, right? Like when I'm saying something to someone, what is that saying about what's in my heart? And am I encouraging that person? Am I helping that person in their faith? Or am I going to disrupt it? Am I going to cause confusion? Am I going to cause hurt? That's something that I want to always be attentive to. I think now, especially more than ever, with my spouse, how I speak to her, how I respond to a message, right? So and I are, we're really good friends, right? And him and I have a very similar personality, where sometimes we just say things that we're like, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? But he, and a lot of times I turn to him and I talk with him about things. And, sometimes he says, as men, we in our mind create a moment where we're right? Like there's a situation with your spouse and you're like, man, I have a point to say, like, this is true. But sometimes it doesn't need to be said, right? You don't have to be right. And how you respond in that moment says a lot more about you than anything. And when I heard that, and I was in a situation where, like, yeah, maybe I can be right, but what is the important thing here? And it's our relationship, my relationship with my spouse. Does that show that I love her, or does that show that I'm just trying to be right in a situation? And took his advice, and it worked. And it was a moment where we both just came together in unison as a couple, and we continue, our everyday. And it's that I think is really important because it, man, just so much. I've gone through my life in so many ways that words have changed my behaviors for years. And I mean years, for a long time. I tried to find wisdom and comforting words in so many different places because I was lacking it as a child, through my parents. And I try to find it in drinking. I try to find it in gaming and all kinds of stuff, right? Anything that can give me a praise, I would do to try to find that hole that I was missing. But it was only God that was going to fill that hole for me. And as he's done that, then I can now be that light to someone else. And, my prayer for us really is that we take this episode and we understand the weight of our words that they have. And really, it goes in hand with, our challenge that we sent out this week. And it's really the Speak Life Challenge, right? It's what I titled it. And the question was like, how can you encourage one person today? And I wanted to just be vocal about who and why I wanted to encourage that person today. And that was my sister. My sister has been working at a place for 2 years, and she's an assistant to someone, but they haven't given her a desk. She works out of a chair, and she's constantly having battles and stuff at work, and it just complicates her work. And, for me, my encouraging words to her is like, God's got you in that place for a reason. And I think that what she does in that place is valuable. And her not having a desk doesn't describe the value that she has to that workplace. And God's doing so many good things with her and being a youth mentor to the church in a time where they're going through changes. And honestly, my encouraging word to her is that I look up to her. She really is like a spiritual mentor to me. She's so knowledgeable, and she's helped me in the last year and a half to guide me through my faith as well. And I think it's so encouraging because God-centered relationship with my sister has been a place where now we have one of the closest relationships that we have ever had in our lives, because I can't remember for the last 25 years, like how many times I would call her, on a weekly basis just to talk to her, to see how she was doing. And now we do that constantly. We text each other. We're just encouraging, not only through Christ, but in our own personal lives and what we're going through. And it's created our love bond even deeper. And I just, that for me is the person that I wanted to encourage this week was. And I told her, a few days ago, I love her, and don't let the enemy use those things to disrupt what you're doing in your life. She's about to graduate, and she's going to probably go on and do better things at other places. But that doesn't say anything about who she is now and what she does at that place, and I don't know if you want to share someone that.
Yeah. So I would say for me, so I think of the verse Hebrews 3:13, encourage one another daily so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. So one thing, I won't say anybody specific, but I know some of the people who are listening, there are people who I text frequently because they're going through certain things in their lives. And I like to check up on people. I like to let them know that I'm praying for them and I love them. And so I think, praying for people and letting people know that you're praying for them is encouraging to them. I have a brother who I actually we text at least once a week. And I asked him, hey, how can I pray for you? I know his situations, and I'm praying for his situation he's going through, and he prays for me as well. And I think that's just so helpful. And typically around Monday, we know we're going to text each other somewhere in the morning and get that started. And I just think that's so big because, just to have the confidence that, I have another brother who is praying for me, who's thinking about me, who's trying to encourage me as well. And I think, the more we do that, the more we change inside for ourselves and just change them. Yeah. And, the prayer is that just goes on to more and more people. And it's got to be intentional too, right? I know one of the things that we were talking about is having intentionality of what we say to people,
Yeah.
because again, our words can build up or crush. So if we're intentionally saying build build up things to people, then we are helping them in their own journey. And I just think about my kids, and there's more opportunities I should use to intentionally build them up. Because I know as teenagers, they are going through a lot of things right now. And I have to be very, very intentional about my words, because what I say to them could send them down one or two paths. It could be the difference of them making the right or wrong choice. And my prayer is that I can continue to speak life in them to make, when it comes down to it and they have a choice to make, that they could hear the words that I said that were positive and that were of godly nature, and they can make that correct choice. So yeah, I don't know. And even with you guys, and I think about you and the text group chat that we have, we're constantly praying for each other. We're always having encouraging things to say to each other. You know, there's always jokes in there and stuff too, but there is encouraging things.
DJ, we don't trust you.
I know, right? And but I look forward to those things. And I look forward to our conversations. So yeah, just challenge you guys as well to find people to speak life into.
Yeah.
And honestly, it doesn't take long, right? We have 24 hours in a day. It takes about 10 seconds to send an encouraging text to somebody, and you could do that multiple times throughout the day. And you would be surprised of how that will make somebody feel, how that could change somebody's life, you know. And I just remember even hearing this past Sunday, like just putting a hand on somebody's shoulder in the way that makes them feel, or like, hey man, you know, I like this about you, this looks good, or, you know, that was very awesome what you did. It really gives them confidence. And so definitely encourage you guys to, you know, just be obedient to that thought in your head. And that's usually probably the Lord is telling you to do something, to speak something life to somebody, or say something positive. It's probably the Holy Spirit trying to nudge you. So just be obedient to that thought.
And yeah, and it just came to mind, right? Because we were talking about like coworkers that maybe not believe in what we believe. The world is doing the opposite of what we would want to do with this encourage, right? What a better way to introduce someone to Christ, by just being that encouraging, right? Because that person's going to turn to you because he knows that you're going to encourage him. And what a better way than to turn that conversation into maybe having him come to church, right? Or, hey, start this devotion with me, or, hey, I'm going to pray for you. Whether you want it or not, I'm going to pray for you. That's a way that we can also introduce, you know, our faith to them, of Jesus and our God, and how great it is, and how graceful he is, and how much mercy he gives us. That just came to my mind when you were saying that. You know, that's a way that you can, if you're trying to battle this, trying to introduce people, that's the best ways you can do it. It's just showing them in words, in actions, because they're gonna turn to you when they need that, because the world is not going to give them that. Right? Not many people in the world are going to encourage people. Most people are out there to use you to the next step that they're trying to get to. So I think that's a good point. I think we would want to finish really is really the two reflection questions that we had from the challenge. I wanted to bring them here. And my advice, you know, is once we say these, like, pause the episode. We're almost at the end. Just pause the episode and really think about the questions and how you can be really encouraging to someone. And the first one is, who in your life needs to hear something real and encouraging from you? And the second is, how can you start speaking with more purpose at home, at work, and with your brothers? Pause right now and think about those questions. Put some actual thought into it, and after the thought, put it into action. You know, send a text to someone, call a coworker and encourage them. Or maybe you are in the gym and encourage someone in the gym, however it may be, right? Like that's the great thing about God, is that he puts us in places sometimes that he only knows why we're there, and you have a purpose in that space, and that's a way that you can do it. And like LJ say, let it be natural, let it be honest, with intentionality behind it, because that is the most important thing as well, right? Like, the words mean something, but how you speak those words and how you say those words also matter as well, and put some thought into it. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so I'll even like speak for myself. I think this is an area for me that I want to even do more at work. So just kind of a little bit of background. I work around a lot of young Marines, and just the culture, the military culture. Period. There's a lot of beat down there, right? And me working as a civilian, I have a great opportunity to like not have to be like a senior NCO and like yell at them or speak down to them, but I can really speak life in to them and encourage them, let them know how great of a job they're doing and what they mean, not only just to this section but to the military in general. So there are, every now and then I do speak to them and just let them know that, hey, you're not just doing a mundane job, but this is what you mean to the overall picture. And I just want to continue to do more of that. And even there's a certain person that I work with who, I feel needs a lot of, TLC really. And he's struggling with certain things and mentally and, with certain people around the base. And I feel like he sometimes feel like the world is against him. And how can I, speak truth and life into him, letting him know that, he is important, even though at times he doesn't feel. And I'm within the proximity to him to where, he will listen to what I say. And I think it's just sometimes, though, just to be completely honest, it could be uncomfortable, right? It doesn't always feel easy, but we don't have to, say any like super sound theological things. It doesn't have to be like all, pretty and stuff like that. Sometimes having a real raw conversation is just fumbling through a few things, but telling them how you feel, how you really truly feel, and but also let God and the Holy Spirit guide your words, right? And but it takes a lot of humility sometimes and vulnerability to even admit your own faults and mistakes, so they could be more apt to listening to you, not just everything that they're doing wrong or whatever you're trying to relay to that person. So sometimes you have to open up about yourself, and again, that's building trust, building relationships, and our words have a real impact on how we build relationships with people. Because if we say the wrong thing, or if we're coming from a judgmental standpoint, we're not really building a relationship with that person, and they're not going to want to build a relationship with us. So, our words might fall on deaf ears. So just make sure that, as we are encouraging people, let it be from a non-judgmental standpoint and from an area of grace and love. So that'd be my biggest thing for that.
Yeah, and before we leave, we just want to remind you have influence. You don't have to be a preacher to speak life, and even just simple words, like you said, can shift someone's day and someone's life into what God wants them to be. So we're so thankful that you guys listen. We're so thankful for the opportunity that you give us to let our ideas and the things that God have taught us be spoken into the podcast. And man, we're so happy about this, and to continue this journey each and every week or so. Just a reminder, please, if you want to be part of the challenge, we'll have the link on the description of the episode. Doesn't take much. It's free. It's just an email that will be sent to you on Mondays, and what better way to continue to stay connected with us. And we love you guys. We were thankful, and I just my words right now are not enough to say how much this means to me, that people listen and support what we are doing here, because it's not about us. It's not about fame or anything like that. It's about getting God and Jesus into people's life and through our experiences.
Amen. All right, yeah, we love you guys. And like, just real quick, like Jose said, you don't have to be preachers to, say words to people. In 2 Corinthians 5:20 says, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors. So, let's go out there and be ambassadors for Christ. And with that, we love you guys, and we appreciate you guys listening as always, and look forward to the next conversation.
All right. Until next time.